many years, Mercedes was curiously absent from the mid-sized premium SUV market in this country, but they're a major player now. This GLC model is the German brand's answer to prestige players in this segment, like the Audi Q5, the BMW X3 and the Range Rover Evoque. It may have been late to the party, but it's an impressively strong contender.
The early part of the 21st century's second decade was characterised by the Mercedes brand's expansion into almost every conceivable market niche. Compact crossovers, lifestyle estates, MPVs, supercars, even plug-in and all-electric technology. No potential industry segment, it seemed, was left uncovered, except, in the UK at least, one of the most obvious, that for premium mid-sized SUVs. A car like this one, the GLC. Now, it wasn't that Mercedes couldn't take on key players in this class like Audi's Q5, BMW's X3 and assorted Land Rover products. On the contrary, between 2009 and 2015, the brand had a GLK class model that did exactly that. In a way, it's so effective that it became the company's best-selling SUV. Unfortunately though, and rather astonishingly, the GLK wasn't ever engineered for manufacture in right-hand drive form. Big mistake. Now that one oversight must have cost Mercedes millions in terms of lost sales, not only in the British market, but also in other right-hand drive territories like Australia, South Africa and Japan. Still, times changed, heads rolled, and the three-pointed star is now back on track. This GLC was launched in the autumn of 2015, priced and positioned directly against its key premium SUV rivals, and offering the kind of unique selling point that all new segment entrants should have. Buyers get an option that no direct rival can match, the kind of sophisticated air suspension system previously limited only to much larger and more expensive SUVs, like Mercedes' own GLE and GLS models. In fact, there's much about this car which democratises pricier SUV luxury, whether your focus is on media connectivity, cutting-edge safety or cabin aesthetics. As with their larger GLE model, there's even a separate body style, the GLC Coupe, aimed at more fashionable folk who might be looking at cars like BMW's X4, Jaguar's F-Pace or the Range Rover Evoque. Here though, our focus is going to be on the standard version, which on paper at least looks equipped to make savage inroads into BMW and Audi sales volumes in this segment. How will that promise translate into reality? Let's find out. So, what are your expectations in terms of driving a premium mid-sized luxury SUV? A commandingly luxurious seating position, plenty of pulling power, impressive refinement? Well, the GLC delivers all of these things. And handling? Well, manage those expectations here. Despite copious use of aluminium in this car's body structure, GLC can still be up to 250 kilograms heavier than the C-Class estate it's based on. And if you were to drive those two cars back to back, then you'd certainly feel that difference. Of course, that is something that few potential buyers will do. All you really need to know here is that a GLC matches the current dynamic standard in the premium SUV class. So it's no better and no worse. Under the bonnet, the lineup for our market is based around one of Mercedes' older engines, a 2.1 litre turbo diesel that doubtless will at some point be replaced by the more advanced 2 litre bi-turbo unit found in the brand's latest E-Class model. For the time being though, this 4-cylinder power plant is quite good enough to keep this car class competitive, offered with either 170 brake horsepower in the GLC 220D variant, or as here, with 204 brake horsepower in this pokier GLC 250D version. The Marque's marketeers expect the majority of buyers to prefer the more powerful unit, and you can see why, given that the price premium is marginal and there's no penalty in terms of the class-leading efficiency. With this GLC 250D, the rest to 62 miles an hour figure improves from 8.3 seconds to 7.6 seconds, while the top speed rises from 130 to 138 miles per hour. More significantly, pulling power increases from 400 to 500 Newton meters, although that's not enough to make any difference to the quoted 2,500 kilogram brake towing capacity figure. With all GLC models, power is transmitted to the tarmac via a smooth, standard 9G-tronic 9-speed automatic gearbox, and there's permanent 4MATIC four-wheel drive too, which splits torque 45 to 55% front to rear on the base GLC 220D model, or 31 to 69% front to rear on this GLC 250D variant. This is a division supposed to give this pokier version a slightly sportier, rearward biased demeanour, although if you can feel that, you're obviously much more sensitive than I am. What's more important is the easy, relaxed way that the 2.1 litre engine goes about its duties. At 70 miles an hour in 9th gear, it's turning over at just 1500 RPM, making this car a superbly relaxed, long-distance cruiser when you need it to be. In more usual give-and-take motoring, making most of the performance on offer will require familiarity with the system Mercedes calls Dynamic Select, one of those setups that allows you to alter the steering feel, the gear change timings and the throttle response at the click of a button. Suspension feel too, though with direct rivals like BMW's X3 and Audi's Q5, adding in the option to change that usually costs extra. In contrast, the most affordable SE and sport-trimmed GLC models get variable damping as standard, which means that the Dynamic Select system's various modes really do properly change the driving demeanour of this car when you use them. There's a choice of Eco, Comfort, Sport and Sport Plus settings, plus an individual option if you want to program in the various parameters yourself. Rather counterintuitively, spending more on the ritziest AMG line trim level we're trying here gets you less in this regard. This trim level featuring a passive and much firmer sport suspension setup that reduces body roll through the corners but can't be tweaked by the Dynamic Select system's various settings. None of this will matter though if you take our advice and seriously consider replacing whatever suspension setup your GLC comes equipped with for an optional damping package that really is pretty unique amongst direct rivals. We're talking here about air suspension, or as Mercedes calls it, air body control, which is the kind of thing you'd normally only find in much larger, pricier SUVs. Air body control is configurable by the various Dynamic Select modes, quite substantially so in fact if you take up all the options on offer. Essentially, this more sophisticated setup makes much more of a dynamic difference across the various settings. So activate Sport mode, for example, on an air-suspended GLC, and in just 60 milliseconds, the chassis will lower itself by 15 millimeters as the damping gets firmer, which will make quite a big difference should you really feel the need to start throwing this car around. Or at least it will once you get used to the rather vague responses of the direct steer, speed-sensitive steering that unfortunately all GLC models are saddled with. Choose Comfort on an air suspended model and there are no such caveats. You really do get what's promised. Enough to much improve ride quality that on the standard car gets slightly unsettled over rougher surfaces. Now, where air suspension has even more of an effect is when it comes to off-road capability. Mercedes offers an extra cost off-road package that improves things in this regard. This option tweaking the vehicle's lights and electronic systems for off-piste use, and adding in an engine underguard and a downhill speed regulation feature that eases you down greasy slopes. Best of all, the pack can build up to 5 more driving modes into the Dynamic Select system. Off-road, incline, slippery and trailer are the basic ones, plus if you order the off-road package in conjunction with that air body control suspension, you also get an extra rocking assist option that offers a last resort should you ever get really stuck. Here the ride height will be raised by around 50 millimeters and the wheel slip control thresholds will be increased to help your GLC to work itself free. It's all enough to make a big difference to the kind of terrain that you could consider attempting in this car. With the off-road package fitted, ride height increases by 20mm from the standard 181mm setting, and if you have it in conjunction with air body control, you could raise your GLC as high as 227mm off the deck if you were to use the rocking assist feature that I just mentioned. With such capability on tap, something like a loose surfaced 70-degree incline, an equally steep decline, and a sideways slope as steep as 27 degrees would all be quite possible for a braver GLC owner. The off-road pack's revised bumpers also help here, improving the approach angle to 30.8 degrees, while the departure angle can be as much as 24.8 degrees and the breakover angle as much as 19.7 degrees. It's about time that Mercedes turned its hand to designing a more compact kind of SUV. The company has, of course, been bringing us larger cars of this kind for decades. But prior to this model's arrival in the autumn of 2015, the Stuttgart brand has done very little in terms of bringing us something more manageably sized. As expected, though, the GLC shows that they had the know-how to do this all along. The look is nothing like as arresting as that offered by rivals like Range Rover's Evoque or the Lexus NX, but then Mercedes offers the separate and more sleekly styled GLC Coupe model line if you want that. Up front, the look of this standard model is characteristically SUV, with short overhangs and an upright three-dimensional twin-louvered radiator grille. This is dominated by the usual centrally positioned three-pointed star and flanked by intricately formed jewel-like headlamps incorporating LED daytime running light strips and optional full LED illumination. The bumper gets an integrated underguard and comes in three distinct guises to suit either standard, off-road orientated or sporty AMG models. I view the car in profile and the C-Class ancestry is evident in the gently sloping dropping line just below the door handles. It's a distinctive characteristic of that car. This rising lower crease also plays its part in giving the flanks some shape, connecting wheel arches featuring matte black cladding that can house rims varying from 17 to 21 inches in size. Strong rear haunches and standard rear privacy glass complete the effect. That broad, muscular shoulder line is carried through into the rear, where silver-trimmed tailpipes feature on most models, and the split tail lamps feature distinctive LED illumination. As at the front, different bumper designs are provided for different variants, this one characterising the sporty AMG look. Now, if you're wondering why there's no roof antenna, that's because all the necessary technology has been built into the exterior mirrors and this roof spoiler. It's just another example of Mercedes' attention to detail. Of much greater importance is something else that you can't see, the underpinnings this car is built upon. Now, I've already alluded to the fact that its basic design borrows heavily from the brand's more conventional lineup of C-Class saloon and estate models, but there is more to it than that. SUVs traditionally suffer as a result of their heavier weight, and that's an issue Mercedes was determined to minimise here. Hence this GLC's complex hybrid mix of lightweight aluminium and high-strength steel that does so much to facilitate the impressive efficiency figures that we'll talk about later in this film. Further signs of this car's C-Class model heritage are evident once you take a seat behind the wheel, which means that it's very nice indeed. Get into one of the brand's older generation models and you're faced with a functional cabin that's, well, about as stylish as Angela Merkel. This more modern design could hardly be more different, with eye-catching metal highlights, a beautifully judged balance of high-quality materials, and a broad, eye-catching centre console that sweeps between the front seats, trimmed in your choice of gloss black, carbon fibre or wood finishes. Downsize from the brand's much pricier GLE SUV into this, and you'd feel very happy indeed. Well, you'd certainly have to spend plenty speccing up the cabin of a rival BMW X3 or Audi Q5 for it to feel as good. Take a look around once you're comfortably seated inside, and the two staples of current Mercedes cabin style are present and correct. There are 5 round silver trimmed air vents, and above the 3 in the centre sits a prominent iPad style infotainment screen. Its freestanding position smacking either of afterthought or inspired design, depending on your point of view. It's 7 inches in size as standard, and it acts as a display for the rather old-fashioned graphics of the Garmin sat-nav system that most customers will specify, as well as for the usual radio, media and telephone functions. If you have more money in your budget though, then you'll want to opt for something a bit more sophisticated in the form of the Command Online package that gets you a much smarter 3D presentation on a larger 8.4-inch monitor. Whatever your choice of infotainment system, its functionality will be primarily controlled by what, at first glance, looks as if it might be the auto gear stick. That's actually a rather overloaded stalk off the steering column. Instead, this rather futuristic-looking protuberance is another thing borrowed from the C-Class and actually works rather well once you get used to it. There's the usual rotary controller dial that swivels and slides and pushes, but here Mercedes has gone a step further, this higher surface turning out to be a touchpad that permits letters and numbers and special characters to be handwritten. Although in this right-hand drive model, there's the awkwardness of having to do that with your left hand, unless of course you are left-handed, in which case you'll be laughing. Now, anything the infotainment display can't tell you will be covered off by the smaller colour screen that nestles between the 2 deeply cowled dials offered by the instrument binnacle. This gives you the trip, navigation, radio, media, telephone, assistance and service options that you access via the buttons on the perfectly positioned leather-stitched multifunction steering wheel. As you'd expect from an SUV, the driving position is a commanding one. Although if you want to hunker down a little more, a wide range of electrical adjustment is possible from a firmly sprung seat that as standard is trimmed in this stitched Artico man-made leather. As for cabin storage, well, there's pretty much everything you would want. This beautifully damped cover conceals twin cup holders, a stowage area and a 12-volt socket. Further back, there's this twin-lidded box between the seats with an SD card slot and 2 USB points. Plus, there's a large glove box, an overhead compartment for your sunglasses, and decently sized door pockets with separate moulded recesses for cups, cans and bottles. Time to take a seat in the back. Now, if you've been persuaded to buy one of these in preference to a C-Class estate, then it's here that decision will really pay off. The GLC has 33mm more length in its wheelbase than one of those would offer, and nearly all of that has been used for the benefit of rear folk, who, as a result, enjoy significantly improved room for their legs and their knees. There's more headroom too, even if, as here, you opt for a model fitted with a kind of large, optional panoramic glass roof that buyers in this segment seem to like so much. It's a pity though that you can't move the bench backwards and forwards in the way that you can, for example, in a rival Audi Q5. It doesn't recline either. Well, despite that though, we think that a couple of adults should be very comfortable here, even if they're 6-footers. Plus, they get the benefit of this central armrest with its twin cup holders. Try and fit 3 folk in here though, and things are far less pleasant, with issues likely to be created by this rather high transmission tunnel and the fact that the middle seat has a rather firm backrest. So let's finish by taking a look at luggage space, accessed by the standard electrically operated tailgate. And Mercedes obviously benchmarked BMW's X3 here for the load capacities on offer, match those of that Munich model exactly. Specifically, you're talking 550 litres. So that's 10 litres more than an Audi Q5 can offer, and incidentally, 50 litres more than you get from Mercedes' swoopier GLC Coupe model. Go for the optional air body control air suspension system and you get a self-leveling feature to help cope with heavy loads, plus the option to lower the boot floor and make life easier for your poor old arthritic Labrador. Even without that, this is certainly a practical space. There's a retaining net in the cargo area sidewall and a lockable boot floor so that valuables can be safely stored in the surprisingly spacious compartment beneath. Inevitably though, this area is surprisingly spacious for a reason, namely that Mercedes declines to offer any kind of temporary spare wheel as standard on this car. I mean, you can pay your dealer extra to have one included, but of course, in that case, the room under there would be largely used up. Need more room? Well, thanks to the rear bench's 40-20-40 divisioning, long items like skis can easily be pushed through between rear-seated folk. For ultimate space, you activate these power release backrest buttons, which leave you with a virtually flat extended load bay free of annoying steps and ridges. It's 1,600 litres in size, which is significantly more than the kind of total capacity you get in rivals like Volvo's XC60 and the Range Rover Evoque. For the purpose of this test, we're going to concentrate on a standard GLC range, but bear in mind that Mercedes also offers a mechanically identical GLC coupe model with less practicality, but a sportier look and feel. Let's assume though that, like most potential buyers, your preference is for this standard version. Now, it was launched with a lineup built around 4-cylinder, 2.1 litre diesel power, mated to 9-speed automatic transmission and 4MATIC 4-wheel drive. At prices sitting in the £35,000 to £40,000 bracket. Now, if you want petrol power and significantly more speed, then a Mercedes-AMG 43 4MATIC high performance derivative is also available. If you happen to have around £50,000 burning a hole in your pocket. It's the 170 brake horsepower GLC 220D and 204 brake horsepower GLC 250D variants that almost all customers will want though, with Mercedes expecting the majority of buyers to find the affordable £1,100 premium that will upgrade them to the pokier model. On to the value proposition those prices deliver. Perhaps we should start by pointing out that a GLC is only around £2,000 more than an equivalent version of the Mercedes C-Class estate that it's based upon, which does seem a reasonable premium to pay given that it gives you 4-wheel drive and lots more cabin space. Most buyers though will be comparing against obvious SUV rivals. Now, if you are doing that, then do bear in mind that most of them charge extra for the automatic transmission that this GLC includes as standard, and some will also charge you more for all-wheel drive. Now, factor all that in and you'll find that the GLC 220D 4MATIC variant's £35,000 asking price is almost exactly what you pay for comparable rivals like automatic 4-wheel drive versions of Audi's Q5 2-litre TDI, BMW's X5 xDrive 20D, Volvo's XC60 D4 all-wheel drive, Land Rover's Discovery Sport TD4 and a Range Rover Evoque TD4. For an equivalent Jaguar F-Pace in 2-litre D, 180 PS all-wheel drive auto guys, you'd have to find around £3,000 more. Or if you're prepared to try something a little different, a comparable Lexus NX300H SE petrol-electric hybrid with 4-wheel drive would save you around £3,000. Want more power from the diesel engine provided in this class of car? Well, there's no option for that from either a Land Rover Discovery Sport or a Range Rover Evoque. Buyers of the Audi, the BMW or the Jaguar have the alternative of graduating up to a 3-litre V6 diesel, but that'll cost you around £5,000 more and hit your efficiency figures pretty hard. Many then may agree with Mercedes that a better solution is simply to offer customers the option of the base 4-cylinder unit in a form tuned to deliver a little more performance, which is exactly what's provided by the 204 brake horsepower GLC 250D variant that we've been trying here. Now, that kind of approach is copied in this segment only by Volvo's XC60, where the D4 all-wheel drive model's 2.4 litre, 5-cylinder, 190 brake horsepower engine is tweaked to 220 brake horsepower in D5 form. Now, go for that D5 variant and you're looking at performance and price of a similar order to this GLC 250D, but running costs that will be a little higher from a design that's quite a lot older. Are there other options? Well, not really. We think that a potential GLC buyer will be looking for something a little classier than cars like Toyota's RAV4, Honda CR-V and Volkswagen's Tiguan. Nice, comparably powered versions of which retail at around the £30,000 mark. Some of the magazines talk of Porsche's Macan because it's the only other similarly sized model in this segment to offer the option of air suspension. That Porsche, though, isn't really a credible GLC rival. Firstly, because you can't buy it with a 4-cylinder diesel engine, and secondly, because it costs around 30% more. Having considered all of this, we'd understand if you concluded that this GLC is what you really want. And if so, well, then you're going to need to know just how generous Mercedes has been with that standard specification. So let's look in detail at that. Now, I have already mentioned two of the key items that come included as standard across the range: 4MATIC 4-wheel drive and the 9G-tronic auto gearbox. In addition, even at the base SE trim level, there's a dynamic select vehicle dynamic system that allows you to tweak the steering feedback, the throttle response, the gear change timings, and the feel of the agility control comfort suspension with its included variable damping setup. Other standard features run to 17-inch alloy wheels, LED daytime running lights, rear privacy glass, auto headlamps and wipers, roof rails, LED tail lamps, an alarm and a powered tailgate. Inside there are seats trimmed in man-made Artico leather upholstery, with those at the front electrically powered and featuring 4-way electric lumbar support. There's also a keyless go starting function, Speedtronic cruise control, a reversing camera, Thermatic automatic climate control, a leather-trimmed multifunction steering wheel, which also has gear shift paddles, and an Audio 20 DAB stereo system controllable via a 7-inch display with a neat touchpad. Practicalities are covered off by a stowage package, and this gives you a power release system for the rear seat backrests, a retaining net at the side of the lockable boot compartment floor, and also a collapsible luggage area box. Disappointingly though, given that this is really a capable SUV, there's no spare wheel provided, only one of those irritating tyre sealant kits. We should also mention that as standard, the brand also throws in all the benefits of its clever Mercedes Me remote online services package. And this allows you to monitor many aspects of your GLC from your PC or from your smartphone. Almost everything, in fact, from its tyre pressures to its washer fluid level. And with Mercedes Me, you can lock or unlock your car from wherever you are, summon breakdown assistance, liaise with your dealer on servicing, and even locate your GLC's position if you've forgotten where you parked it. So then, the entry-level SE variant includes plenty within the base price. We think, though, that most buyers will still want to go a little further and find the extra couple of thousand to trade up to mid-range sport trim. Now, in that case, you'll find the look to be quite a lot smarter, courtesy of larger 18-inch alloy wheels, extra chrome trim, silver-trimmed exhaust pipes, and distinctive LED high-performance headlamps. Other sport features include a Garmin Map Pilot navigation system, heated front seats, black ash interior wood trim, a special interior lighting package, power folding mirrors, an auto dimming rear view mirror, and an active parking assist with Parktronic system, which will automatically steer you into the tightest spaces. Here, though, we've gone a stage further, opting for the sportier look and feel of AMG line trim. That gets you an AMG body kit, even larger 19-inch AMG alloy wheels, and inside an AMG steering wheel and AMG sports pedals. Less welcome, we think, is the AMG line trim level substitution of the variable damping system fitted to SE and Sport models for a firmer passive sport suspension setup. To be frank, that would put us off this derivative, hence our suggestion that you use your money more wisely. Stick to the mid-range sport model and use that extra £1,500 that would have upgraded you into this AMG line variant to instead get yourself something much more unique, namely an optional air body control air suspension system that no other direct competitor can offer, a feature that will improve the ride and also make your GLC more capable off-road. You could always then go on and add a few bits of AMG tinsel as individual options if you still really want them. Another key option we'd suggest GLC buyers seriously consider is the off-road package. Now, yes, we know you're not going to be planning to conquer the Serengeti in this Mercedes, but this extra pack only costs another £500 and will give your car a considerable amount of extra capability on slippery surfaces, especially if you purchase it along with that air body control air suspension system I was just talking about. Now, with the off-road package, you get special 18-inch alloy wheels, a ride height raised by 20mm, an under-engine guard, and a front bumper with a greater approach angle. A downhill speed regulation system will also ease you down slippery slopes, and the dynamic select setup gets no fewer than 5 extra off-road driving modes. Now select any one of them and the vehicle braking, the traction and stability systems will be tweaked for off-road use, and the headlamp beam will be widened to better light your way off-piste. Still up for ticking boxes? Well, here's a few more for you. We'd say that the key features missing from base SE trim are satellite navigation, heated front seats, and the active parking assist with Parktronic system. Mercedes seems to agree, and they've bundled up these 3 items and offered them as part of an affordable executive package for SE buyers. If, on the other hand, you've disregarded our advice and gone for this AMG line trim level, then your dealer will offer you the option of a distinctive night package that adds black trimming to the exterior and an exclusive set of 19-inch bicolour 5 twin-spoke wheels. Now, if that isn't your thing, but you would like to look at some other alloy wheel options, then across the range there's a wide selection of 17, 18, 19 and 20-inch rims available. On the subject of aesthetics, you might also want to look at side running boards and various special metallic paint colours. Here, for example, we've got diamond silver. You want to get the look and feel of the cabin to your taste too. There's the option of trimming the dashboard, the doors and the roof lining in stitched Artico leather to match the seats if you want to. Or if you prefer the real stuff, then all these areas can be coated in proper real leather. You want the interior trimming panels to look equally classy. There's a choice of high gloss black or AMG carbon fibre infused with aluminium, fine light brown wood, or as in this case, black ash wood. You might also like the air balance package that includes an interior fragrance dispenser. If funds permitted, then we would also want to add in some extra cabin technology. The 360-degree camera system that makes manoeuvring so simple, and the head-up display that projects key driving information onto the bottom of the windscreen. Practical options include a retractable tow bar and the usual racks for bikes, skis and snowboards. For many GLC owners, a simpler way to improve the spec of their chosen model will be to opt for one of the optional premium packages that your dealer will want to tell you about. Now, the basic one is fitted to this car and features a panoramic glass roof, extended ambient cabin lighting, a memory package for the electric seats, and a keyless go comfort feature that allows you to open the powered tailgate by waving your foot beneath the bumper. And if you want a bit more, then the Premium Plus package includes all of those things, as well as a 13-speaker, 590-watt Burmester surround sound system, and best of all, perhaps, the desirable Command Online media system that replaces the basic Audio 20 media setup. With Command, you get a larger 8.4-inch centre dash infotainment screen, more sophisticated hard disk drive 3D navigation, a 10GB music register, linguatronic voice control, a web browser, and use of various Mercedes-Benz apps. Plus, you can create in the car a WLAN, that's Wireless Local Area Network, Wi-Fi hotspot. As we go on now to consider safety technology, I'll point out that that Premium Plus package I was just talking about includes some of that too, namely a traffic sign assist system that pictures road signs as you pass them and displays them on the dash, and via that Command system, an e-call emergency call feature that will automatically alert the rescue services if you're in an accident that activates the airbags. All very nice, but you would want the standard safety tally on all GLC models to thoroughly protect you without having to spend a fortune on extra options. Well, fortunately, it does. And quite a few key desirable electronic safety features come included right across the range. Take the attention assist system that profiles you in the first few minutes of every journey and then continues to measure your responses, warning you to stop for a break if control reactions suggest that you're getting a little drowsy. Then there's curve dynamic assist for greater cornering stability, a crosswind assist setup that detects and compensates for sudden gusts of wind at speed, and collision prevention assist plus, which warns you if you're getting too close to the vehicle in front and will automatically reduce your speed and brake if you don't respond. There's all the more conventional safety kit that you'd expect too. That means twin front, side and curtain airbags to cover all occupants, ISOFIX child seat fastenings, a pedestrian-friendly active bonnet and NeckPro anti-whiplash head restraints. Now, to try and ensure that none of this stuff is ever needed, you do of course get the usual assistance for traction and stability control, and as you'd had a right to expect with a car of this price, there's also ABS with brake assist, as well as an adaptive braking system that flashes the brake lights in emergency stops and keeps the discs dry in wet weather. Plus tyre pressure monitoring and a hill holder function that stops you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions. Inevitably, of course, if you have got more to spend, then you can make your GLC even safer. And one way of doing that is to tick the box for the optional LED intelligent light system with adaptive high beam assist plus package. Here, the LED headlight beams turn with the bends and adjust to road and weather conditions while dipping themselves and constantly giving you the best possible illumination without dazzling oncoming traffic. It's one of those features that you'll wonder how you ever lived without. Now, the other key extra cost safety option GLC owners are going to be offered is the driving assistance package. And this includes 5 further safety elements borrowed from the brand's larger luxury models for use in this car. Let's start with pre-safe brake. Now, like the standard collision prevention assist plus autonomous braking system that I mentioned earlier, it can automatically brake the car to help you avoid hitting things, but in this case, the focus is specifically on avoiding rear end collisions. The second driving assistance package feature, BAS Plus with cross traffic assist, helps with that too, prompting you to brake in hazardous situations and adding in extra brake pressure if you're too tentative, while also working at junctions and roundabouts to avoid possible collisions from the side. Thirdly, there's Distronic Plus with steering assist and stop-and-go pilot. Now, that's a cruise control system that automatically keeps you a safe distance behind the car in front at highway speeds. If necessary, even braking you down to a stop and then starting you off again. Finally, there's active lane keeping assist, there to stop dozy drivers from veering out of their lanes on the highway, and active blind spot assist, that at speed stops you from dangerously pulling out to overtake in front of another driver. The Federal Office of Statistics reckons that the driver of a Mercedes is 9.6% less likely to have an accident than the driver of a car of any other brand. Well, looking at what's on offer here, you can begin to see why. Would we ever have imagined a few years ago that a 1.9-ton luxury compact SUV of this kind would be able to better the fuel consumption of a 1.6-litre Ford Focus with less than half the power? Well, almost certainly not. Yet that is exactly what this GLC model can manage in both its mainstream diesel guises. Let's get straight to the figures of the two mainstream diesel models we're focusing on here, which, by the way, are identical whether you choose this car in GLC 220D or GLC 250D, guys. You're talking 56.5 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 129 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, I'll give you some perspective on that. A Mercedes C-Class estate with the same basic engine and automatic gearbox would deliver 65.7 miles per gallon and 114 grams per kilometre in C220D, guys, but that's a lighter car with less interior space and only 2 driven wheels. More significance lies in the way that the GLC's figures relate to those of obvious SUV rivals. So let's see. A rival BMW X3 xDrive 20D automatic can get close to this model's CO2 figure, but it can't match its fuel return. A rival Audi Q5 2-litre TDI 190 PS S-Tronic, meanwhile, is way off GLC standards when it comes to both readings. Equivalent versions of cars like Range Rover's Evoque, Land Rover's Discovery Sport, Jaguar's F-Pace and Volvo's XC60 will also cost you slightly more to run, even though they offer less performance. So Mercedes has really got its sums right here. In this GLC 250D, you get a quicker car with more pulling power than direct rivals can deliver, yet also one that costs slightly less to run. So how exactly has the brand done that? Well, as usual, the answer lies with a combination of advanced engineering and low weight. This model is constructed from a hybrid mix of lightweight aluminium and high-strength steel, and as a result, somehow manages to weigh in at 50 kilograms less than its substantially smaller GLK predecessor. The class-leadingly sleek .31 CD drag figure also helps here, and in addition, both the gearbox and the 4MATIC all-wheel drive system have shed significant amounts of weight. Other contributory factors towards this car's efficiency showing include an AdBlue urea injection system that reduces nitrogen oxide emissions, and the usual start-stop system that cuts the engine at the lights or in traffic when you don't need it. What though if you want something more advanced than diesel power? Well, if you know your Mercedes product and come to this GLC aware that it's based very much on the brand's C-Class model, you might be expecting that this car, like that one, will offer a plug-in petrol-electric hybrid option, as indeed it does in continental markets. Unfortunately though, from launch at least, that installation couldn't be engineered for right-hand drive production, which to some extent makes you wonder whether Mercedes has learnt very much from the mistakes made with this design's predecessor. By the time the plug-in hybrid option does arrive in this car, your dealer will also be able to sell you a GLC with something even more sophisticated, hydrogen fuel cell technology. Of course, not all GLC customers will be prioritising efficiency. Those who don't care won't be worried about the way that, for example, fitting optional 20-inch wheels to this car pushes its CO2 emissions showing up from 129 to 143 grams per kilometre of CO2. And of course, efficiency won't be particularly high on the priorities of potential customers for the petrol-powered flagship Mercedes-AMG 43 4MATIC high-performance variant. To be fair, this version's 3-litre V6 bi-turbo engine is pretty efficient by class standards, but it still only manages 34 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 189 grams per kilometre of CO2. Whatever GLC variant you choose, you'll only get close to the quoted fuel and CO2 returns if you habitually drive using the Dynamic Select driving mode system's green-minded eco setting. This marginally limits the accelerator pedal curve and also slightly restricts the output of the seat heating, the heated rear window and the air conditioning. There's also an eco display in the trip section of the instrument binnacle screen to help you drive more frugally, and a fuel consumption section on the fascia's central media display screen gives you graphical evidence of your success or otherwise in achieving maximum frugality. So what else? Well, residual values. Well, if you were to own this car for 3 years and cover around 10,000 miles a year in it, independent experts would expect this car to depreciate at the rate of around £4,100 a year, which is pretty reasonable by class standards. This is assuming, of course, that you don't severely overload it with costly extras at the point of purchase. As for insurance, you're looking at groupings between 27 and 29 for the GLC 220D and groupings between 32 and 35 for this GLC 250D variant. What else? I'll tell you that the comprehensive 3-year unlimited mileage warranty is built upon by Mercedes' Mobilo scheme, which delivers breakdown cover for up to 30 years, as long as you continue to have your car serviced at a Mercedes main dealer. And it's also worth knowing that your maintenance outlay can be kept a little in check by going for the optional service care package that takes care of routine maintenance, spreading the cost of regular servicing, guaranteeing the price of parts and labour for up to 4 services, and covering the cost of all recommended service items, such as brake fluid, spark plugs, air filters, fuel filters and screen wash. There's an assist dashboard service indicator that monitors engine use and tells you exactly when a garage visit is due. And it's also worth mentioning that the Mercedes Me remote online services package includes remote self-diagnostic capability, and that enables your GLC to monitor wear and tear items and to alert your local dealer to let you know if something needs seeing to. So the wait was worth it. Mercedes' first real attempt at creating a design properly equipped to target front-running models in the premium mid-sized SUV segment is the impressively complete all-rounder we hoped it would be. Where its left-hand drive only predecessor traded on brand image and not a lot else, this car is there or thereabouts in almost any important area you care to mention. Much of that, of course, is down to the way the GLC's engineering borrows hugely from other Mercedes models, although to be fair, it does also have a few tricks of its own. namely the option of the kind of air suspension system that previously was largely limited to much bigger SUVs. That plays a key part in creating far greater reserves of off-road ability than you'd normally expect a car of this kind to be able to offer. It's a pity then that very few owners will ever get to experience it. We think though that these buyers will still be pretty satisfied. There is, after all, a combination here of frugality, space and comfort that rivals will find very hard to beat. Yes, some potential customers may feel that there are more dynamic choices they could make in this segment, but those people won't be able to leave a Mercedes showroom before being directed towards the sleeker coupe version of this car, which could very well make them think again. Most, though, will value the all-round practicality of this standard model. No, it can't give you the 7-seat capacity of a rival Land Rover Discovery Sport or the racetrack responses of a similarly sized Porsche Macan. Otherwise, though, it's hard to see how you'd be disappointed by this Mercedes. Yes, it has arrived late to the party, but it's well prepared to create quite a stir.